Morning, we are celebrating Western New York and the international spotlight that we're in this week, and it all traces back to an unknown story of Western New York.
Yes, several years ago you did this story, Pete, and it was a good one.
Yeah, the Western New York connection to the man who wrote the music for the Mexican national anthem. There's always a Buffalo connection, right? This man's name, Jaime Nuno, and well, now an international documentary crew is here producing a film about Nuno's life, including his time here in the Queen City. The crew interviewed me for the documentary, so I returned the favor when I caught up with them as they filmed in Forest Lawn.
We found that story about this Catalan composer that thrilled us.
Raul Cortez and Eduard Miguel are visiting Western New York from Mexico and Spain, respectively. The goal of these two documentarians is to bring light to the time spent in the Queen City by the composer of the Mexican national anthem, Jaime Nuno.
Was an adventurer. He traveled to Cuba, to Mexico, and finally he spent his last decades of life here in Buffalo.
Nuno was born in Spain in 1824, studied music, then moved to Cuba when he was 27. That's where he met Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, the former and future Mexican president. When Santa Anna returned to power in Mexico, Nuno went with him to oversee military bands. Well, at the time, the government was holding a contest to come up with a national anthem. Nuno entered and won. Unfortunately, Santa Anna was overthrown, so Nuno fled to New York City to work as a conductor and opera director. Soon he became burned out, and a friend suggested teaching and said there might be opportunities in the growing city of Buffalo. A story not familiar with many Buffalonians nor Mexicans.
They know that Jaime Nuno is the author of the music, but they don't know anything about his life, about where he came from, and what happens after composing the national anthem.
Nuno spent 4 decades here teaching music and leading choirs. He married one of his students. They had 2 children. And then in 1901, the Pan Am Expo came to town. The Mexican delegation brought a band, and many of those musicians had heard that Nuno lived here. So they played the national anthem outside of his Delaware Avenue studio until he came out. He was celebrated as a national hero in Mexico. And when he passed away in 1908, he was brought back to Buffalo and buried at Forest Lawn, a site visited this week by the filmmakers.
And the newspaper accounts tell the story of a very simple service. The body was brought directly from the train to this grave site, and there were only a few people present.
And despite the grave marker that's still here, Nuno was soon brought back to Mexico.
Within a few days of this burial, there were newspaper accounts that the Mexican government wanted to disinter him and move him to Mexico then. But it took 34 years for that to happen.
Yeah, just a fascinating life. And when I was doing the story initially, I said, this is a movie. Someone's got to make a movie about that. So now they're making a documentary. It'll be shown on public TV in Mexico and in Spain.
That's really cool. Oh, very exciting. And you'll have to let us know when it's going to be on.
Yeah, I will let you know when they let me know.
Okay, very good.